Morning. I'm Sarah Colvin, and joining me live on the phone, I welcome First Barnstable State Representative Tim Whelan. Rep. Whelan, good morning.
Good morning, Sarah. You out there early this morning dodging the raindrops on your way in like I am now?
Yes, exactly. I was out there. I have 3 dogs, so I had to get up early this morning and take them out because they will not go out when it rains. So I was glad to get them all taken care of before it started to rain out there.
Your dogs sound like they're probably related to my dogs. My dogs have a similar approach.
Not fans of rain, those 4-legged creatures. So Tim, wanted to talk a little bit about a dedication that took place over the weekend, a recognition, a renaming of a highway overpass that goes over Finney's Lane in honor of U.S. Army PFC Lewis Karras. Tell me a little bit about what led up to this renaming of this overpass.
Sure. Well, what happened was shortly after I was sworn into office, I had a conversation with former Precinct 1 town councilor Ann Kennedy, and Ann had come to me and spoken to me about an effort that had been underway for some period of time that just hadn't gained any traction, and that was to name the Route 6 overpass that goes above Finney's Lane in honor of Lewis Karras. Now, Lewis Karras was one of, I believe there were 10 children off the top of my head. They grew up in Barnstable Village, and the home in which they grew up in is now the Dolphin Restaurant up there in beautiful, gorgeous downtown Barnstable Village. Out of the family, the majority of the family, I believe it was every male member of the family served in one branch of the military or another, most of them during time of war in defense of our nation. And not only that, but his sister, Mary Montagna, the first woman ever elected select woman in the town of Barnstable back when it's a different municipal government, and the title was selectman or select woman. So it's a very noted family, and they are a very large family. So and very well thought of too, outstanding people. Now, Lewis is one of the oldest brothers, and Louis was a PFC in the U.S. Army, having served in the 12th Armored Division over in Europe. During his service, he was wounded, was awarded a Purple Heart, and he also was awarded a Bronze Star for gallantry in combat. So we're talking about this gentleman here as a war hero. And he came home from the war, married his wife Betty, and raised a family in Barnstable. And so if there was ever anybody that from our greatest generation we could name a bridge after in memory of their great contributions, Louis Karras is that man. So Ann Kennedy had introduced me to Ted Karras from West Yarmouth, who is Louis' younger brother. And we had discussed Louis' history of service. We had discussed Ted's efforts to have this bridge named in his brother's honor. So we filed a bill, followed it up, like to follow up every bill that we file, and ran around the State House, spoke to members of the Joint Committee on Transportation, spoke to the Mass Department of Transportation, spoke to the Governor's office, spoke to the Speaker's office, and sure enough, we were able to get some legs on this bill. We got it passed, and on Saturday, we went to the West Barnstable Beer Club for the Karras family reunion, and we had a formal ceremony for the naming of the bridge, and we were fortunate that the administrator of Mass DOT, statewide, the top guy for Mass DOT, Tom Tinlin, came down with his staff, as well as Representative Randy Hunt joined us, my good friend and dear colleague. We're also joined by Representative Councilor John Flores, who has replaced Ann Kennedy in Precinct 1 and is doing an admirable, outstanding job. We were joined by Councilor Phil Wallace, my good friend, who was just outstanding. And we also had the Veteran Service Officer for Barnstable County, Ed Merrigan. And we all joined with the family. We had a wonderful speaking program, and we got the bridge formally named. It was a wonderful day. Great day for Barnstable.
Absolutely. And I think, I was curious as to the location. And when you say it was the family reunion, that makes a whole lot of sense. What a great way to be able to honor the family. And I'm sure that the family members that were there and were present was a special moment for them.
It was, when we were discussing the locations, speaking about it with Councilors Flores and Kennedy, doing it on site there at Finney's Lane would have required shutting the road down with the size of the family, having police shutting the road down, traffic detours and everything, and it just wasn't workable. And Ted Karras, who has been, again, the big driving force within the family, one of the big driving forces behind this, mentioned that we could do it at the annual family reunion at the Deer Club, and the venue was absolutely perfect. The Deer Club it's a beautiful place, and boy, it was a beautiful day, and it was a beautiful ceremony. You know, everything was beautiful about it, Sarah.
Well, it was a beautiful weekend, and so again, you know, I think that we've been hearing more and more about these the highway overpasses being named in honor of our veterans. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of that? You know, I think having the sign up there is something that people, you know, are going to drive under. They're going to see the name. Is it, you know, in terms of ways to remember or recognize? Is that one of the reasons why you know, we do this sort of thing, is to keep these folks top of mind?
Well, I'm going to tell you, Sarah, there was, and this is a story that when I was speaking at the program, I related a conversation that I had shortly after I had arrived at the Deer Club when a woman came up to me with 3 children. One of the children was the great-granddaughter of Lewis Carroll, and the mother was the granddaughter of Lewis Carroll. And she was looking at the mock-up that we had of the sign, and then, of course, recognized the family name. And we were talking about naming a bridge, and I had said to her, I said, someday, sweetheart, when you have children, you're going to be able to bring your children down to this bridge and point at that sign, and you're going to be able to say that this bridge is named after your great-great-grandfather, because this is forever, and that's pretty cool. And she had a big smile on her face, and I think I think the talking point I was trying to get across to her would probably be the best way to answer your question, Sarah, in that it's a permanent memory of some of the greatest people that we have, some of the greatest Americans that ever lived in their service and their sacrifice, and that's certainly the case here with PFC Lewis Carroll.
Absolutely, and not just an individual and a family that served our country, but an individual and a family that really made a difference here in our town of Barnstable, and so that, I think, makes it even more special.
This Karras family is a very strong part of the fiber that makes Barnstable the great community that it is. And Louis Karras was one of the patriarchs of it. He passed, unfortunately, in 2013, but he lived to be, I believe it was 92, 93 years old, and raised a beautiful family, married 72 years to his wife, Betty. So they do kind of define some of the best that the town of Barnstable has or is.
Great. Well, Rep. Whelan, I thank you so much, as always, for joining us here on Barnstable This Morning. A pleasure to have you on the program, and we will talk with you again in a couple of weeks. Have a great day.
I'll look forward to it. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. Bye-bye. State Representative Tim Whelan, of course, representing the 1st Barnstable District. Going to send you out to look at that gray morning view at Barnstable Harbor. We'll be back with Director of Public Works Dan Santos here on Barnstable This Morning.